President Trump has officially confirmed and promised a $2,000 stimulus payment for all Americans, funded through tariff revenue. I want to make this completely clear. This is not an idea he is just suggesting or thinking about. It is not something he might consider. He has made an official and direct promise. I will share my thoughts, but first I want to walk through what he said and show you exactly what is happening. On Sunday, November 9th, President Trump posted the following message. He wrote, "People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest and most respected country in the world, with almost no inflation and a record stock market. 401ks are at all-time highs. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt of $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA. Plants and factories are being built all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 per person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone." That final sentence is what matters most. He did not say we might or we could. He stated clearly that this is going to happen. It is a direct and specific commitment. Now think back to when Trump mentioned the possible Doge dividend check earlier this year. When he floated that concept of sending a stimulus from Doge-related savings, his tone was different. He spoke about it as something under consideration, not a promise. He said, "We are thinking about it. It may happen, and it is something to consider." So at that time, I said publicly that I did not believe it would happen. Based on his language and tone, it was clear that it was only a thought. I told people not to get their hopes up and made my position very clear. You can go back and watch that video. You can see the difference now. When Trump talked about the Doge check, he never made a promise, so it was fair that it never materialized. But this time, his words are direct. He is saying that almost all Americans, other than high-income earners, will receive a $2,000 check. If he does not follow through, then I will call it out. Now let's look at the rest of Trump's post. My first concern is inflation. If Trump sends a $2,000 payment to nearly everyone except top earners, inflation will spike again, just like it did with previous stimulus rounds. Inflation is still running hot right now. Trump said inflation is close to 0%. However, the federal government reports inflation at about 3%, and the real rate is closer to 6%. So I disagree with Trump's statement that inflation is near zero. I want to speak directly to the MAGA crowd for a moment. Please understand this clearly. You can disagree with President Trump and still support him. He is not a god, he is a politician. You can like what he stands for and still question his numbers. 6% inflation may sound high, but relatively speaking, it is not extreme. The reason I say that is because the Federal Reserve is now aggressively cutting interest rates and preparing to turn the money printers back on as early as the first quarter of 2026, which is just around the corner. Even without new stimulus checks, inflation is expected to rise. With these checks, inflation could reach levels that are shocking. Trump also said the tariffs are generating trillions of dollars and that the government can use this money to pay down the national debt of $37 trillion. He posted this message on November 9th, but as of that date, the debt was already at $38.1 trillion, according to official Treasury data. In September, tariff revenue totaled $31.6 billion. At that monthly pace, it equals around $380 billion per year. So I honestly do not understand where Trump is getting the idea of trillions from. That figure does not align with the math. For fiscal year 2025, the government overspent by $1.78 trillion, even including the tariff income. That means the country went further into debt by that amount. If the government collects $380 billion from tariffs but borrows an extra $2 trillion to cover overspending, how is that paying down debt? 2 trillion is obviously larger than 380 billion, so I am not following how this adds up. Maybe I missed that day in math class. But based on the numbers, there is no way the debt decreases from this. Unless they revalue gold or take some extraordinary measure, the debt will only rise. Trump also claimed there is record investment in America and that plants and factories are appearing everywhere. That statement is not accurate. In October, companies announced record job cuts, and manufacturing jobs actually fell by 3,000 last month. Considering all that, Trump still says a dividend of $2,000 will go to everyone. So the question is, should we believe it? Because in that one post, there is already a lot of questionable information. For Trump to deliver this payment, Congress would need to approve it, just as they did with pandemic stimulus checks. It would have to pass the House with a simple majority and then pass the Senate with 60 votes. Unless the Senate nukes the filibuster rule, which Trump is demanding they do. That may or may not happen. If they do, then the $2,000 is more likely to happen. If not, then it is not as likely. If he tried to use the reconciliation process, it could pass with 50 votes, but even then, several Republicans would refuse because of inflation concerns. So in my view, getting this through Congress would be very difficult. The only situation where I could see this happening is if the economy crashes badly next year and they use it as a last resort to prevent collapse. That would drive inflation even higher, but that is how Washington often works. They fix one crisis at a time and push the bigger problem forward. So just like I said about the Doge stimulus idea, I have to be honest again. I will call it like it is. This time, though, I would not completely dismiss it. Desperate times can force desperate actions. The financial system is under pressure. The Federal Reserve is panicking. They are cutting rates fast, ending quantitative tightening, and preparing to restart quantitative easing. One more thing to note. Trump's tariffs are currently being challenged in court. The case reached the Supreme Court, and oral arguments were held on November 5th. It has been fast-tracked, but a final ruling could still take time. If the tariffs are overturned, tariff revenue could fall by half, dropping below $200 billion a year. The government already overspends by about $2 trillion annually, so that loss would be significant. That is my full assessment of the situation. I will continue following it closely and share updates as they happen. Times are uncertain, and people need straightforward information without false promises or political games. I will keep you informed as we see how this plays out.